Russian Su-35 blown out of the sky over Kursk. Headlines celebrate, Ukraine's F-16 scores its first kill. But what if it was all a masterful deception? The truth behind this takedown is more terrifying than any rumor. At exactly 07:14, the skies over Kursk Oblast erupted in flames. A Russian Su-35 fighter jet plunged to the ground in a fiery crash. Just minutes later, Ukrainian social media exploded with a historic claim. For the first time, a Ukrainian F-16 had shot down Russia's most advanced warplane. But behind the fireworks of headlines, the truth was far more astonishing. Subscribe to the channel to not miss interesting videos. Moments later, the media exploded like gasoline on fire. Ukrainian F-16 shoots down Russian Su-35. A headline as provocative as it gets. Western military officials instantly hailed it as proof of the effectiveness of fighter jet aid packages. Germany's Bild even shared details that sent air combat enthusiasts into a frenzy. But slow down. What if everything you've heard is just a distorted picture painted through the smoke and mirrors of modern warfare? Because in reality, this victory may not have come from an F-16 or any fighter jet at all. According to rumors, the F-16 fired an AIM-120 AMRAAM missile that was guided by a Swedish reconnaissance aircraft operating hundreds of kilometers away. It sounds textbook perfect, but this is a battlefield, not a showcase. As the truth slowly emerges, the dogfight scenario starts to seem strangely implausible. The sudden twist in this event sends chills down the spine. No F-16 took down the Su-35 that day. What actually brought down the Russian fighter jet was something entirely different and even more dangerous. The first clue was hidden in plain sight. Within the Ukrainian Air Force's own statement, they confirmed the Su-35 was eliminated in a successful operation in the Kursk direction, with no mention whatsoever of dogfights or F-16s. From here, the question pierces the air like an artillery shell in a clear sky. If it wasn't an F-16, then who really shot down the Su-35? Let's rewind time. At 6:45 a.m. that morning, the Russian pilot walked around his Su-35S for a pre-flight check. The twin AL-31F engines roared to life, ready for takeoff. With over 15 tons of Russia's most advanced combat tech beneath him, the pilot confidently launched into a routine combat patrol. This channel doesn't just give you facts, it delivers drama, emotion, and jaw-dropping twists. Subscribe now so you don't fall behind. But it was merely the calm before the storm. The Russian pilot's mission seemed straightforward: maintain an altitude of 8,000 meters near the Kurskumi border and be ready to intercept any Ukrainian fighter jet. Russian ground forces had reported suspicious activity from the Ukrainian side, a dangerous signal that called for a divine eye in the sky. The pilot was confident that any threat would be crushed by the Su-35's superior power. That confidence came from the beast he was piloting, the Su-35S, the pinnacle of Russian air combat aviation. Its Urbis-E radar can track 30 targets simultaneously at distances over 400 kilometers, meaning it could see aircraft in St. Petersburg while sitting in Moscow. Thrust vectoring engines allow it to twist and defy the laws of physics mid-air, while the Kibini electronic warfare system can blind enemy radars. But the question remains, was that enough? The answer is no. Despite being equipped like a war god, the Su-35 is far from invincible. And more importantly, Ukraine barely had enough F-16s to even field in a battle like this. Let's face the facts. The Ukrainian F-16 fleet is smaller than a high school football team. They only received their first jets in August 2024. By June 2025, just around 10 were combat ready. Far too few to defend a nation larger than Texas. Things get even worse when you factor in the human element. Ukrainian pilots have spent their careers flying MiG-29S and Su-27S, classic Soviet-era platforms that operate under a completely different philosophy than the F-16. While MiGs emphasize visual targeting and solo dogfighting, the F-16 is designed to be the nerve center of a remote warfare network. Experts say it takes at least 2-3 years to truly master the F-16. Ukrainian pilots, they haven't even had a full year of proper training. Worse still, the F-16 loss rate is hitting red alert levels. In less than a year, Ukraine has lost 3 jets, one in an accident in August 2024, another went down in April 2025, and a third was shot down just this past May. For a country with only 10 aircraft, losing 3 means a staggering 30% attrition rate. At this pace, the F-16 is turning into a battlefield crystal, shiny, valuable, and tragically fragile. Sending an F-16 deep into Russian airspace is like using your last fire truck to deliver pizza while the whole city burns. But the real threat didn't come from the skies. It came from the ground. Ukraine's air defense network is now reaching deeper and deeper into Russian territory. And that right there is a nightmare waiting to unfold for any Su-35 pilot. As the Su-35 took up its patrol position at 0700, it had no idea it was already being watched by invisible electronic eyes. According to German media, a Swedish Saab 340 was scanning the Ukrainian skies with its Area long-range radar, capable of detecting aircraft from up to 450 kilometers away. But turning radar into a weapon requires one critical element: a connection. And that's Link 16, the NATO Tactical Data Link System. Think of it as military-grade WhatsApp, allowing aircraft, radars, and missiles to share positions, targets, and real-time status at all times. If the Su-340 spotted the Su-35, it could instantly relay that data to an F-16 for a pinpoint strike. But this is where the story begins to crack. The shocker, the U.S. removed Link 16 from the F-16S sent to Ukraine. Why? Fear that this top-secret tech could fall into Russian hands if a jet got shot down. The result? Even with the Su-340's godlike eyes, the F-16 can only receive updates via radio chatter. And in a battle fought at supersonic speed, even a few seconds of delay can mean life or death. Even if the F-16 did receive an order to strike, 2 months of training alongside the Su-340 wouldn't cut it. The connections, the tactics, the radar procedures, the target coordination, everything is brand new. Expecting Ukraine to sink like a seasoned NATO task force in just 60 days under fire is pure fantasy. The F-16 narrative is starting to fall apart, piece by fragile piece. Under these conditions, a dogfight with an F-16 becomes highly unlikely. So what really caused the Su-35 to explode? The answer lies in the shrill alert from its L-150 Pastel radar warning system, sounding off at 07:13 just 1 minute before the blast. A fire control radar had locked onto the jet. The hunter had stepped out of the shadows. And from that moment, the deadly chase began. The missile warning system screamed like a siren of death. A missile had left its launcher, cleared the boost phase, and was now closing in on the Su-35 at terrifying speed. The pilot yanked the stick hard, diving into a desperate split-S maneuver. If he was fast enough, he might force the missile to miss its trajectory. But hope was hanging by a thread. As a final push, the thrust vector engines twisted to the limit, sending the Su-35 whipping through the air like a cyclone. Flares burst out in fiery streaks, a meteor shower of decoys meant to fool an infrared missile. But the weapon inbound wasn't ordinary. It ignored every lure, locking onto metal mass, not heat. This battle was no longer about skill. It was about fate. The secret began to unravel. This wasn't an old-school SAM. It was a missile guided by active radar homing, a smart hunter, calculating its own flight path in real time. The Su-35's Kabini electronic jamming system was useless. Nothing could stop it. At exactly 07:14, the proximity fuse triggered. The pilot yanked the ejection handle, blasting out of the cockpit just seconds before the Su-35 vanished into a fireball. From nearly 6,000 meters above, suspended mid-air, the pilot watched as the wreckage of his fighter burned beneath him. Russia's top-tier jet was now just a twisted heap of metal. One question drilled into his mind: what the hell brought me down? The answer wasn't an F-16. It wasn't the Swedish Saab. It was something far more familiar, silently spreading terror from the shadows. It was the Patriot, the MIM-104 air defense system made by the United States. Since its deployment to Ukraine in April 2023, Patriot has become a symbol of modern warfare. But calling it just a defensive system is a grave understatement. Patriot doesn't just shoot down threats. It rewrites the rules of the battlefield, turning every fighter jet into a living target inside an invisible kill zone. The modern Patriot system uses the PAS-3 variant, equipped with advanced track via missile guidance technology. This means the missile homes in on its target independently after an initial course correction. No need for ground radar to maintain a lock. Once locked on, it's nearly impossible to jam. Traveling at 5 times the speed of sound, it gives the enemy less than 2 seconds to react before being torn apart. No matter how maneuverable the Su-35 is, nothing escapes a Mach 5 missile that continuously adjusts its trajectory. This isn't just theory. On January 14, 2024, a Patriot shot down a Russian A-50 AWACS aircraft. In May 2023, 2 Su-35s were also taken out over Bryansk Oblast. Those pilots thought they were safe too, and then vanished from radar, as if they had never existed. Ukraine's vague statement now makes perfect sense. They confirmed the Su-35 was downed, but never said who did it. Why? To protect tactical secrecy, to leave the enemy guessing, to create the illusion that F-16s are lurking at every altitude. But the truth is far more terrifying. The thing that kills you isn't what you see. It's what you never even knew was there. This is the new face of warfare, where a radar hundreds of kilometers away will see you and a ground-based system will kill you. You're detected by one machine but destroyed by something entirely different. Gone are the flashy dogfights of movie scenes. What remains is silence, precision, cold efficiency, and no escape. That is the true nightmare of 21st century combat. An F-16 taking down a Su-35 sounds thrilling, but the truth is far colder. Victory now belongs to systems and algorithms, not pilots in the sky. Subscribe to the channel to uncover the brutal realities of modern warfare.